Now, when I first noticed it, I didn't see it on a chart. I saw it in the gap. The numbers worked technically, but nothing felt livable anymore. And that's when I realized something had already broken before anyone called it a crash. And that's where this actually begins. Because what's happening in housing right now isn't a mystery. And it isn't emotional, it's just mechanical. And it's how mortgage affordability works when prices, income, and financing drift out of alignment and stay there. Now, we keep talking about rates. We keep arguing about crashes, but affordability collapses before headlines actually catch up. And once it breaks, it doesn't politely wait for permission to reset. Now, the housing downturn didn't just start. It's been unfolding quietly for years. Prices peaked, inventory kept climbing, affordability snapped, not because of panic, but just because of plain math. And mortgage mechanics don't care how optimistic anybody feels. So let's get clear first. Let's put clarity first in how the system actually works. Because mortgage affordability isn't about whether prices go up or down in a given month. It's about whether households can carry the payment relative to income consistently and sustainably without financial strain. So think of affordability like a bridge with a weight limit. You can keep driving heavier trucks across it for a while, but the moment the load exceeds the structure, the bridge doesn't collapse dramatically, it warps. And that warping is what we're living through right now. Now, after years of price acceleration, the monthly payment on an average home drifted far ahead of what income could support. Not temporarily, structurally. And once that happens, demand doesn't disappear loudly. It just stops showing up. So what is the data quietly showing us here? Well, across major US markets, prices are already lower than they were just a year ago. Inventory has been rising year over year for 21 straight months now. And that hasn't happened accidentally. It happens when fewer buyers can qualify, regardless of their desire. Now, California is down roughly 11% from peak levels. Texas has seen drops exceeding 20% in certain metros. Arizona and Florida are leading in price reductions. That's not sentiment shifting. That's affordability enforcing itself, like gravity. Because you can't have a debate with gravity. You fall until the ground pushes back. Now, why this started earlier than people think? Well, most people think housing turned recently, but it didn't. Prices peaked in mid-2022. Sales volume collapsed then. Inventory began stacking. That's the moment affordability broke. When fewer homes sell, listings pile up. And when listings pile up, sellers start to compete. When sellers compete, prices move, slowly at first, but then decisively. And it's like watching a bathtub fill after the drain clogs. The water doesn't explode, it just rises until something gives. And that brings us to the rates and why they're such a distraction, because a lot of people assume mortgage rates control affordability. They don't. They modify it. Rates influence monthly payments, but they don't reset prices to match income. And here's the part that confuses people. Even when the Federal Reserve cuts short-term rates, mortgage rates can rise. That's because mortgage rates track longer-term expectations, primarily the 10-year Treasury, not the Fed's overnight rate. So while everyone waits for rates to fall, affordability keeps deteriorating. Ironically, though, sharper lower rates would actually re-break affordability by pulling buyers back in too fast and reigniting competition. And that's how we got here the first time. Lower rates don't fix a stretched system. They stress it again. And it brings us to this hidden consequence. And it gets interesting here, because here's the part most people miss. Affordability doesn't recover because prices fall. It recovers when prices realign with income over time. And historically, that realignment follows a very old, very boring pattern. Now, economist Fred Harrison documented it decades ago. Real estate moves in roughly 18-year cycles. 7 years of steady growth, 7 years of acceleration, followed by a 4-year correction. Now, this pattern has repeated across centuries and continents, not because it's magical, because human memory is short and incentives repeat. So we're currently deep into that correction phase, and something unusual is happening this time. And we'd have to ask ourselves why this cycle is different, but not necessarily safer. Because in prior cycles, prices overshoot income. Then they snap back sharply. But this time, prices overshot faster and income lagged further behind. Now that creates a longer unwind. So you'd have to think of it like stretching a rubber band twice as far as usual. And when it releases, it doesn't gently return. It oscillates. That's why we're seeing multiple smaller peaks after the 2022 high. Prices tried to recover, but they failed repeatedly. And this pattern, the 3 declining peaks, is a classic signal that affordability hasn't reset yet. Now, if we look at price versus income, like the real mechanism, in a healthy market, homes typically cost about 3.5 times the household income. Now that ratio, it isn't arbitrary. It's the point where payments remain manageable across economic cycles. But today, the average household earns around $80,000 a year. The average home costs over $400,000. That is a 5-to-1 ratio, which means affordability is strained. It's mathematically impossible for most households. So that's like asking someone to sprint while they're holding their breath indefinitely. Now, they might move for a moment, but the collapse, it is going to be an inevitability. And what happens next, I'm not sure, without adding a whole lot of drama to it, but as affordability corrects, 3 things are going to happen simultaneously. Prices drift lower, incomes slowly catch up, transaction volumes stay suppressed. This isn't a crash movie, it's a pressure release valve. And pressure releases at the pace math allows, not at the pace headlines prefer. So what do you guys think? Do I have this all right? Do I have it all wrong? Please put in the comment section below. I look forward to reading and replying to all of your guys' comments. And thank you again so much for watching me here on The Baseline.